The Great Hall of the Galactic Confederation was so vast that its opposite walls vanished into a haze of blue light. Endless tiers of floating platforms circled the chamber, carrying representatives from every known corner of the galaxy. Thousands of civilizations had gathered beneath the towering crystal dome, their countless voices blending into a quiet hum that echoed through the enormous hall. No two species looked alike. Some delegates floated inside transparent spheres, filled with shimmering liquid. Others balanced effortlessly on branch-like limbs rooted to their platforms. Several clung upside down from suspended perches, jewel-like wings folded neatly around their bodies. It was a living portrait of the galaxy itself. At the center of the immense chamber rested the High Council, 7 ancient civilizations, 7 voices whose decisions had shaped the fate of empires for thousands of years. Today, only one world mattered: Earth. The murmurs faded as Ambassador Cathra stepped onto the central platform. Tall and graceful, his people resembled humans at first glance, but their living skin shifted color with every emotion. At that moment, it burned a deep crimson, the unmistakable shade of anger among his species. His gaze swept across the assembly. "We have observed humanity for 50 of their planetary years," he declared, his voice rolling through the great hall like distant thunder. "They are ambitious. They are unpredictable. And every year they become more dangerous." A heavy silence settled over the chamber. Many delegates nodded in agreement. Others exchanged uneasy glances. Not one of them realized that humanity had already anticipated this meeting, and before the council reached its final vote, the species they intended to judge would completely change the course of galactic history. They are not ready to join civilized society. They fight wars over tiny pieces of land. They poison their own planet. They cannot even agree on simple things like what to eat or how to live. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Ambassador Valine nodded her massive head. Her people were giants with stone-like skin and eyes that glowed blue. "The humans are dangerous," she said. "They solve problems with violence first. They ask questions later. This is not the way of peaceful beings." The evidence against humanity was clear. Holographic displays showed Earth's wars, pollution, and conflicts. The aliens watched as humans fought over resources, built weapons, and destroyed forests. They saw crime, poverty, and political arguments. "Look at their entertainment," said Ambassador Zixtra, whose people were small and covered in fur. "They enjoy watching violence. Their stories are full of fighting and death. What kind of species finds this amusing?" More displays appeared. Movies about war, sports where people hit each other, and news programs that focused on disasters and conflicts. To the aliens, it looked like humans loved chaos. "They cannot control their own emotions," added Ambassador Lore, who looked like a walking plant. "They make decisions based on feelings instead of logic. They are unpredictable. How can we trust them in our confederation?" The human representatives sat quietly in a small section near the back. There were 5 of them dressed in their best formal clothes. Dr. Sarah Chen led the group. She was a diplomat who had spent years learning alien languages and customs. Next to her sat General Marcus Webb, Admiral Lisa Torres, Dr. James Park, and Ambassador Rachel Kumar. They had prepared for this moment for months. They knew the aliens had concerns about humanity. They had brought answers to every question and solutions to every problem. But as they listened to the speeches, they realized something important. The aliens had already made up their minds. The humans claim they are ready for membership. Cathra continued. "They say they have learned from their mistakes, but we have seen no real change. They still fight. They still pollute. They still act like wild animals instead of intelligent beings." End quote. The crowd grew louder. Voices from 100 different species agreed that humans were too dangerous, too violent, too chaotic to join their peaceful galaxy. Dr. Chun stood up slowly. The hall grew quiet. All eyes turned to the human section. "Honorable beings of the Galactic Confederation," she began, "we understand your concerns about our species. We have not come here to argue or to beg. We simply wanted you to know that we are ready to be part of something bigger than ourselves." Her voice was calm and clear. She had practiced this speech many times, but now she realized it did not matter. The decision was already made. Kaitera's skin turned an even deeper red. "You see," he said. Even now they do not understand. They think this is about being ready. This is about being suitable. Humans will never be suitable for galactic society. The High Council members whispered among themselves. After a few minutes, the Chief Council members stood. Her name was Elder Zaraki, and her people were among the oldest in the galaxy. She looked like a tall, graceful bird with silver feathers. The Galactic Confederation has reached a decision, Elder Zaraki announced. After careful consideration of all evidence and testimony, we hereby formally exclude the species known as humans from membership in our confederation. The words hit the hall like thunder, but Elder Zaraki was not finished. Furthermore, she continued, humanity is banned from all galactic territories. They are forbidden from using our trade routes. They cannot establish colonies beyond their solar system. They must remain in their own star system and not venture into galactic space. The crowd erupted in approval. Cheers and clicks and strange musical sounds filled the air. The aliens were pleased. The dangerous humans would be contained. Dr. Chun looked at her team. General Webb's face was red with anger. Admiral Torres clenched her fists. Dr. Park shook his head in disbelief. Ambassador Kumar stared at the floor. But then something unexpected happened. Dr. Chun smiled. She stood up again and began gathering her papers. Her team looked at her in confusion. Shouldn't they argue? Shouldn't they demand another chance? Shouldn't they at least look upset? Thank you, honored beings, for your time and consideration, Dr. Chun said. Her voice was still calm, but now there was something else in it. Something that sounded almost like relief. We appreciate your honesty about your feelings toward humanity. She closed a briefcase with a snap that echoed through the suddenly quiet hall. We will respect your decision, she continued, and we wish you well in your future endeavors. The aliens stared in shock. This was not the response they expected. Where was the anger? Where were the desperate pleas? Where were the promises to change? Dr. Chun turned to her team and nodded toward the exit. Come on, she said with a bigger smile. We have work to do back home. As the 5 humans walked calmly toward the exit, they could feel thousands of alien eyes watching them. The hall was completely silent now. No one understood what had just happened. The humans reached the door, and Dr. Chun turned back one last time. Thank you for freeing us from the burden of trying to fit in, she said. Then she winked. The door closed behind them with a soft click, leaving the entire Galactic Confederation wondering what they had just witnessed. The humans had been rejected, excluded, and banned from the galaxy. And they looked happy about it. The news reached Earth 3 days after the decision. Dr. Chen and her team had used the fastest alien communication system available to send the message home. Around the world, leaders gathered in emergency meetings to hear what had happened at the Galactic Confederation. President Martinez of the Global Unity Council sat in her office with the leaders of every major nation on Earth. The room was tense as Dr. Chun's face appeared on the large screen. The decision was final. Dr. Chun explained, "We are excluded from galactic society, banned from their territories, forbidden from expanding beyond our solar system." Prime Minister Johnson of the European Federation slammed his hand on the table. "This is outrageous. We prepared for years. We changed our ways. We showed them our progress. They never intended to accept us," Dr. Chun replied calmly. "The decision was made before we even arrived. They see us as too violent, too chaotic, too unpredictable." Chancellor Away from the Asian Alliance shook her head. "So what do we do now? Do we appeal? Do we try again in a few years?" Dr. Chun was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled the same smile she had shown in the alien hall. "I think we should thank them." The room exploded with confused voices. "Thank them?" President Martinez asked. "They just destroyed decades of diplomatic work." "Did they?" Dr. Chun asked. "Or did they just free us from trying to be something we're not?" On the screens around the world, similar conversations were happening. Government officials, scientists, and military leaders all struggled to understand what this meant for humanity's future. But outside the government buildings, something different was happening. In coffee shops, in schools, on social media, and in online forums, regular people were having a very different reaction. Maya Patel, a college student in Mumbai, posted the first viral response. "Wait, so the aliens think we're too chaotic and violent to hang out with them? Cool. We'll build our own galaxy with blackjack and pizza." The post was shared 1,000,000 times in the first hour. Soon, similar posts appeared in every language on Earth. Memes spread faster than government statements. Pictures of humans shrugging with captions like "your loss." Aliens and thanks for the motivation filled social media. Dr. Elizabeth Romano, a physicist at the Lunar Research Station, was in her lab when she heard the news. Her first reaction was disappointment. She had spent years studying alien technology, hoping to learn from more advanced civilizations. But then she looked around her lab at the experiments she had put on hold to study alien science, at the theories she had abandoned because they didn't match alien methods, at the innovations she had stopped pursuing because the aliens said they were impossible. She picked up her tablet and sent a message to every human scientist she knew. "Emergency meeting tomorrow. We're going back to our own research. All of it." Similar reactions were happening across the solar system. On Mars Base Alpha, Colonel Sarah Kim gathered her engineers. "You know those crazy terraforming ideas you had? The ones the aliens said were too dangerous? Let's try them." In the asteroid belt, mining crews who have been following alien guidelines for safe and proper resource extraction suddenly had new orders. "Ignore alien protocols," came the message from Earth. "Do whatever works fastest." Captain Robert Santos was commanding a research vessel near Jupiter when the news arrived. His mission had been to study alien navigation methods. Now he turned to his crew with a grin. "Change of plans, people. We're going to figure out faster than light travel our own way." The reaction wasn't just from scientists and engineers. Artists stopped trying to create galactic-friendly art and went back to human styles. Musicians abandoned the mathematical harmonies that aliens preferred and embraced the chaotic creativity that the aliens had criticized. Writers stopped crafting stories that would appeal to alien sensibilities. Instead, they wrote about human adventures, human problems, and human solutions. The violence and conflict that aliens hated became sources of pride instead of shame. Within a week, the mood on Earth had completely shifted. What started as disappointment had become something like celebration. News programs showed crowds cheering and celebrating. Humanity's Independence Day from Galactic Society. The Global Unity Council released an official statement that surprised even its own members. President Martinez stood before cameras around the world and said words that no one had expected. "The Galactic Confederation has informed us that we are not suitable for their society. After careful consideration, we have decided that this is probably the best news we could have received." She paused as murmurs spread through the gathered reporters. "For too long, we have been trying to change ourselves to meet alien standards. We have held back our creativity, our innovation, and our natural human instincts because we wanted to fit in with galactic society. Today, that burden has been lifted." The president's smile was genuine and confident. "We thank the Galactic Confederation for their honesty, and we thank them for freeing us to be ourselves." Behind the scenes, governments were already making dramatic changes. The Department of Galactic Relations was disbanded overnight. Its entire budget was transferred to the new Department of Human Expansion. Military resources that had been devoted to learning alien combat techniques were redirected to developing purely human strategies. Space exploration programs that had been limited by alien territorial restrictions suddenly had no boundaries. The entire galaxy was open to human exploration as long as they could figure out how to get there on their own. Most importantly, the psychological change was immediate and profound. For the first time in decades, humanity felt free to be itself. The violence that aliens criticized became determination. The chaos they feared became creativity. The unpredictability they rejected became innovation. Dr. Chen and her team returned to Earth as heroes, not because they had succeeded, but because they had failed so gracefully. At the spaceport, thousands of people gathered to welcome them home. Signs reading, "Thank you for the freedom," and "Earth First, Galaxy Second," filled the crowd. As Dr. Chun stepped off the transport, a reporter pushed through the crowd. "Dr. Chun, do you regret not fighting harder for acceptance?" She looked at the celebrating crowd, at the excited faces of humans who suddenly felt free to dream big again. "Regret," she said. "This is the best thing that ever happened to us." She walked toward the exit, but turned back for one final comment. "The galaxy thinks we're too wild for them. Perfect. Let's show them just how wild humans can be." Behind her, the crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard for miles. Humanity had been rejected by the galaxy. And humanity had never been happier. 15 years had passed since the galaxy rejected humanity. Dr. Elizabeth Romano stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station and watched something that should have been impossible. Below her, the planet Mars was green. Not patches of green here and there, not carefully controlled green zones around human settlements. The entire planet was green from pole to pole. Under a thick atmosphere, the humans could breathe without suits. Status report. Dr. Vulov, Romano said into her communicator. Atmospheric pressure is perfect, came the reply from the surface. Oxygen levels are stable. The weather system is functioning exactly as designed. I'm standing in what used to be the Voles Marinaries Canyon, and it's now a river valley with grass and trees. Romano smiled. When the aliens had excluded humanity, they had called human terraforming ideas dangerously reckless. The galactic method involved tiny, careful changes spread over thousands of years. Humans had done it in 15. The secret was simple. Humans didn't worry about following safe procedures. When Dr. Kim's team needed to thicken Mars's atmosphere, they redirected 3 small asteroids to hit the polar ice caps. The aliens would have been horrified. The explosions were massive, the process was violent, and it worked perfectly. When they needed to heat the planet, they didn't wait for gradual solar warming. They built orbital mirrors that focused sunlight and triggered controlled volcanic activity. Again, the aliens would have called it insane. Again, it worked. Dr. Romano, her assistant Marcus, call from across the deck. Captain Santis is requesting permission to begin the Jupiter mission. Romano walked over to the communication station. On the screen, Captain Santis looked older, but more excited than ever. Behind him, she could see his new ship. It was ugly by any standard. Thick armor plating, massive engines, and weapon systems that looked like they belonged on a battleship rather than an exploration vessel. Permission granted, Captain Romano said. Are you sure the drive system will work? Santis grinned. According to alien physics, it's impossible. According to human physics, it should work just fine. We'll know in about 6 hours. The human faster-than-light system was nothing like the elegant alien versions, where alien ships used complex calculations and rare materials to fold space gently. Human ships used what engineers called the brute force method. They had discovered that space could be torn rather than folded. It was violent, it was loud, and it required massive amounts of energy. But it worked. It was fast. And best of all, it didn't require any of the exotic materials that the aliens controlled. Dr. Sarah Kim had developed a theory while working on Mars. Why do we need to be gentle with space? She had asked, we're not trying to live in it forever. We just want to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. The first test flight had been terrifying. The ship had disappeared in a flash of light and a sound like thunder. For 3 hours, no one knew if it had been destroyed or it actually reached its destination. Then Captain Williams' voice had crackled over the radio from the Alpha Centauri system. This is Starship Challenger. Test successful. The view out here is incredible. Oh, and we beat our estimated travel time by 6 hours. Now, 5 years later, human ships were exploring systems throughout local space. They moved faster than any alien vessel ever recorded. They could carry more cargo and more people, and they were built to go places that alien ships wouldn't dare visit. Dr. Romano, Marcus said again, we're getting reports from the asteroid belt. The mining operations want to know if they should proceed with the Ceres project. Romano pulled up the reports on her screen. The Ceres project was exactly the kind of thing that would make aliens nervous. Instead of carefully extracting resources from the dwarf planet, humans planned to break it apart completely and use the pieces to build hundreds of space stations. Tell them yes, she said, and remind them to send the construction crews to begin work on the ring system around Earth. The ring system was another impossible human project. 20 space stations connected by transport tubes, forming a complete circle around Earth at high orbit. It would provide living space for 50 million people and serve as the central hub for human expansion. Aliens built their space habitats in safe, stable locations far from planets. Humans built theirs wherever they were most useful, even if it meant dealing with radiation, gravity fluctuations, and orbital debris. Ma'am, came another voice over the communicator. This is Commander Torres at Luna Base. We're ready to begin construction of the new shipyard. How big? Romano asked. Big enough to build ships a kilometer long, Torres replied. The aliens said anything over 500 meters was impractical. We figure bigger is better." Romano laughed. Everything humans built was bigger, faster, stronger than alien equivalents. It wasn't because human technology was more advanced. It was because humans weren't afraid to take risks. When human engineers designed a spaceship, they didn't worry about making it last for 1,000 years. They built it to do its job well, and then built a better one to replace it. When human terraformers worked on a planet, they didn't plan for gradual changes over centuries. They made dramatic improvements in decades. "Dr. Romano," Marcus said, looking excited, "you need to see this. It's a message from the Kepler team." The Kepler team was a group of explorers who had left human space 3 months ago. Their mission was to find habitable planets beyond the local stellar group. They were traveling in the newest human ships, designed to go farther and faster than anything built before. Captain Martinez appeared on the screen. She was standing in what looked like a jungle with strange purple trees and orange grass. "Greetings from Kepler 442b, she said. "We found it. A perfect planet for human settlement." Romano's heart raced. How perfect! Oxygen atmosphere, fresh water, edible plants that actually taste good, and no sign of intelligent life. The planet is ours if we want it. "Any problems with the journey?" Martinez shrugged. The ship worked exactly as designed. Fast, reliable, and tough enough to handle anything space threw at us. We should be able to establish a permanent colony here within 2 years. Romano sat down heavily. In 15 years, humanity had transformed Mars, explored dozens of star systems, built massive space stations, and now found their first new home world. All without any help from the galaxy. "There's one more thing," Martinez added. "We've been monitoring galactic communication channels. The aliens are talking about us." "What are they saying?" "They're confused. They keep detecting human ships and human colonies in places where they think no one should be able to go. Their exploration vessels are finding our outposts in systems they thought were empty." Romano smiled. "Do they know it's us?" "Not yet. Our ships don't match any known designs. Our colonies don't follow galactic patterns. To them, it looks like a new unknown civilization has suddenly appeared across the galaxy." And Martinez grinned. "They're scared. Really scared. They're calling emergency sessions and increasing their military patrols. They think some dangerous new species is expanding into their territory." Romano walked back to the observation window and looked down at green Mars in the distance. She could see the construction ships working on the orbital ring. Beyond that, she knew human ships were racing toward distant stars, carrying colonists and equipment to build new homes. The galaxy had rejected humanity because they were too chaotic, too violent, too unpredictable. They had been right about one thing: humans were different from other galactic species. But they had been wrong about what that meant. Human chaos wasn't destruction. It was creativity. Human violence wasn't evil. It was determination. Human unpredictability wasn't weakness. It was the ability to find solutions that no one else had ever imagined. "Marcus," she said, "send a message to all human operations. Tell them to keep doing whatever they're doing and remind them that we're just getting started." Outside the window, a transport ship launched from Mars, carrying the first human colonists to their new home among the stars. The galaxy had decided to exclude Earth. Earth had decided to outgrow the galaxy. Ambassador Keith's skin was flashing between orange and purple, colors that meant fear and confusion. He stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Confederation, holding a datapad that contained information no one wanted to believe. "The reports are coming in from across the galaxy," he said, his voice shaking. 17 different species have encountered these unknown ships. The designs match nothing in our databases. Elder Zaraki leaned forward in her chair. 50 years had passed since they had excluded the humans, and she had hoped never to think about that barbaric species again. "Describe these ships." "Crude, powerful, fast beyond anything we thought possible," Cathera replied. "They appear suddenly, scan our vessels, and disappear before our sensors can get detailed readings." Ambassador L9's massive stone hands clenched. "How fast?" "Faster than light, but not using any known method. Our scientists cannot understand how they work. The energy signatures are completely alien." On the giant screens around the hall, images appeared, blurry photographs and sensor readings of ships that looked like metal boxes with massive engines. They were ugly, functional, and somehow frightening. "Where are they coming from?" asked Ambassador Lore. his plant-like features rustling with worry. "That's the problem," Kier said. "Everywhere. We've detected them in the outer rim, the core worlds, and even in systems we thought were empty. It's as if they appeared overnight across the entire galaxy." Commander Vexal of the Confederation Defense Force took the floor. His people were warriors built like armored insects with forearms and glowing red eyes. "My fleets have tried to intercept these vessels. They are too fast and too well armed. When we approach, they simply leave. They're avoiding conflict." Elder Zeraki asked. "So far, yes. But their weapons are concerning. We detected energy levels that suggest they could destroy our largest warships with a single shot." The hall erupted in worried chatter. The Galactic Confederation had been the dominant power in the galaxy for thousands of years. The idea that some unknown species could challenge them was terrifying. "There's more," Cathra continued. "We've discovered colonies. Planets that were empty 5 years ago now have settlements. The terraforming work is unlike anything we've ever seen. New images appeared on the screens. Planets that had been barren rocks were now green worlds with thick atmospheres. The transformation was so complete and so fast that it seemed impossible. The Zarion system was just bare planets and asteroids when we last surveyed it," said Ambassador Plex, whose people specialized in exploration. "Now it has 3 habitable worlds and a massive space station built from asteroid materials. How is that possible?" Elder Zeraki demanded. "Terraforming takes thousands of years." "Not for these beings," Pix replied. "They seem to use controlled explosions, orbital manipulation, and planetary engineering on a scale we consider insane." Ambassador Zixtree, the small furry being, was trembling. "They're expanding too fast. Our models show they've established outposts in over 200 systems in just 10 years. At this rate, they'll control more territory than the Confederation within a century." The implications hit the room like a shockwave. The Galactic Confederation had grown slowly, carefully over thousands of years. These newcomers were expanding at a rate that threatened to dwarf their entire civilization. "We must make contact," Elder Zeraki decided. "Find out what they want. Negotiate before this gets out of control." Commander Vexal stepped forward. "We tried, Elder. 3 months ago, my fleet encountered their ships near the Vega system. We sent standard greeting protocols. They responded with a simple message. Territory claimed. Move along. That's it. That's it. No negotiations. No diplomacy. Just a clear statement that the system was theirs, and we were not welcome." The room fell silent. In galactic society, territory disputes were settled through long negotiations and careful treaties. The idea of someone simply claiming a system and defending it was almost unthinkable. "We need more information," Elder Zeraki said. "Send exploration teams to study their colonies, learn what we can about their technology and their intentions." 2 weeks later, the exploration teams returned with reports that made the crisis even worse. Captain Morell of the scientific vessel Discovery stood before the Council with data that challenged everything they thought they knew about space travel and colonization. We observed their operations at the Beta Centaur system," he began. "They are building space stations larger than our biggest cities. Their ships move resources between planets, like we move data between computers." "How many of them are there?" asked Elder Zeraki. "Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. Their colonies are not small outposts. They are full cities with massive populations." Ambassador Valine leaned forward. "What do they look like?" Captain Mel hesitated. "That's the strange part. We couldn't get close enough for clear visual identification. Their sensor networks detected us long before we could see them clearly, but from what we could observe—" He paused, looking uncomfortable. "Tell us," Elder Zeraki commanded. "They appeared to be bipedal, similar to several known species, but their behavior patterns, their technology, their expansion methods, they're unlike anything in our records." What Captain Morell didn't say was what worried him most. In the brief glimpses his team had gotten, the beings looked disturbingly familiar. But it couldn't be the humans. Humans were trapped in their solar system, forbidden from galactic space, weren't they, sir? His science officer had whispered during the observation. "Those biosignatures, they matched the human data from 50 years ago." "Impossible," Captain Mordell had replied. "Humans don't have the technology for interstellar travel. They don't have the resources for colonization, and they definitely don't have the ability to terraform entire planets." But the evidence was becoming harder to ignore. The territorial behavior matched human patterns. The rapid expansion matched human aggression. The crude but effective technology matched human engineering. Back in the council chamber, Elder Zari was making a decision that would change everything. We must prepare for the possibility that these unknowns are hostile. She announced increased military patrols, strengthen defenses around our core systems, and find out everything we can about these new beings. What if they want to join the Confederation? Asked Ambassador Zixtur, a Dolder Zaraki's feathers ruffled based on their behavior. I don't think that's their goal. They seem to be building their own empire, one that could challenge ours. As the council session ended, Ambassador Cathra remained behind. His skin had settled into a deep blue that meant deep thought. He pulled up the old files from 50 years ago, files about a species that had been rejected and banned from galactic space. The humans have been described as chaotic, violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. They expanded too fast, fought too much, and refused to follow galactic norms. Cathra looked at the reports of the unknown species. They were expanding too fast, avoided diplomatic contact, and refused to follow galactic norms. His skin slowly turned white with shock as the horrible truth began to dawn on him. The humans hadn't been contained. They had been freed. And now they were everywhere. The truth came out during what would later be called the Revelation of Proxima. Captain Torres was leading a Confederation investigation fleet toward the Proxima Centauri system when her sensors detected something impossible. The small red dwarf star was surrounded by a massive ring of space stations and orbital platforms that stretched for millions of kilometers. This can't be right, her science officer whispered. The energy readings are off the charts. They've built a Dyson swarm around an entire star. Captain Torres stared at the displays. A Dyson swarm was theoretical engineering that no galactic civilization had ever attempted. It required technology, resources, and organizational ability beyond what anyone thought possible. Send a standard greeting, she ordered. No response to standard protocols, her communications officer reported. But we're being scanned very thoroughly. By whom? Before anyone could answer, a new voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent that made Captain Torres's blood run cold. This is Admiral Sarakim of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You are entering human territory. State your purpose. The bridge went silent. Captain Torres felt her world shift as the impossible became real. Did you say human? That's correct. This is Proxima Station, capital of the Human Colonial Union. You are Captain Torres of the Galactic Confederation vessel Harmony. Correct. How do you know my name? We've been monitoring your communications for quite some time. Your government has been very worried about our activities. We thought it was time for a proper introduction. Captain Torres looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at her with expressions of shock and disbelief. Humans were supposed to be primitive beings trapped in their home system. They weren't supposed to have faster-than-light travel, colonial fleets, or the ability to build megastructures around stars. Request permission to send a diplomatic vessel, Captain Torres said carefully. Permission granted. Dock at Platform 7. But Captain, come alone. We have a lot to discuss. 3 hours later, Captain Torres walked through the airlock of Platform 7 and stepped into a world that shouldn't have existed. The station was huge, clean, and bustling with activity. Humans in uniform moved with purpose through corridors lined with displays showing dozens of star systems. Admiral Kim was waiting for her. She was a woman in her 60s with gray hair, kind eyes, and the bearing of someone who had seen a lot of space. Behind her stood 2 other humans, a tall man in a military uniform and a woman in civilian clothes. Captain Torres, Admiral Kim said with a smile. Welcome to Proxima Station. I'm Admiral Kim. This is General Webb and Dr. Chun. Captain Torres recognized the last name. Dr. Chun, you were at the Confederation hearing 50 years ago. Dr. Chun, now an elderly woman with white hair, nodded. I was indeed. That was quite a day. You should be in your solar system. Captain Torres said. You were banned from galactic space. We were. Admiral Kim agreed, and we respected that decision. We never entered galactic space. But you're here. You've built colonies throughout the galaxy. General Webb stepped forward. We built colonies in unclaimed space. Space that your Confederation never bothered to explore or settle. As far as we know, we've never violated the terms of our exclusion. Captain Torres looked around the massive station. How is any of this possible? 50 years ago, you barely had space travel. Dr. Chun smiled the same smile she had shown 50 years earlier. 50 years ago, we were trying to copy your methods. We were holding ourselves back to match your standards. When you freed us from that burden, we became ourselves again. What do you mean? Admiral Kim gestured to the windows, showing the Dyson swarm. Humans don't think small, Captain. We don't take 1,000 years to terraform a planet when we can do it in 20. We don't build tiny outposts when we can build megastructures. We don't explore one system at a time when we can explore hundreds. Your expansion rate is impossible, Captain Torres protested. Our models show it would take 10,000 years to achieve what you've done. Your models assume everyone thinks like you do, General Webb replied. Humans think differently. When we want to build something, we build it. When we want to go somewhere, we go there. When we want to solve a problem, we solve it. Dr. Chun pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. Thousands of points of light marked human colonies, research stations, and industrial platforms. The network stretched across regions that the Confederation had never even mapped. We've established permanent settlements in over 3,000 systems, Dr. Chun explained. We have a population of nearly 50 billion humans living throughout the galaxy. Our industrial capacity exceeds the entire Galactic Confederation. Captain Torres stared at the display. That's impossible. No, Admiral Kim said gently. It's just different from what you're used to. You see, Captain, when your Confederation rejected us, you made a fundamental error. You assumed that being excluded from your society was a punishment, wasn't it? It was the greatest gift you could have given us. Dr. Chun said, for the first time in decades, we were free to be human, free to take risks, free to fail and try again, free to build something bigger and better than anything we had ever imagined. General Webb brought up another display showing human ships that dwarfed anything in the Confederation fleet. Our ships are faster, stronger, and more capable than yours, because we designed them to be tools, not monuments to our egos. We built them to do jobs, not to impress other species. We heard you were violent, Captain Torres said weakly. Admiral Kim laughed. We are, but not the way you think. We're violent in our determination to succeed. We're violent in our refusal to accept limitations. We're violent in our pursuit of the impossible. The chaos you criticized became our creativity, Dr. Chan added. The unpredictability you feared became our ability to find solutions no one else had considered. Captain Torres felt overwhelmed. Everything she had been taught about humans was wrong. They weren't primitive barbarians struggling to survive. They were the most successful civilization in galactic history. What do you want from us? She asked. The three humans looked at each other and smiled. Want from you. Admiral Kim said, Captain, we don't want anything from you. We're quite happy with our current situation, but your Confederation has been worried about us. General Webb added, sending ships to investigate our activities, trying to figure out who we are and what we want. Dr. Chun stepped forward. So, we thought it was time to introduce ourselves properly, to let you know that the humans you excluded 50 years ago have done quite well for themselves. You could rejoin the galaxy. Captain Torres offered desperately. Join the Confederation. Share your technology. The three humans exchanged glances and began to laugh. Join your Confederation, Admiral Kim said. Captain, why would we want to do that? You move too slowly. You think too small. You're limited by rules and traditions that make no sense to us. We've built our own society, Dr. Chun explained. One that works the way humans work. One that lets us be what we are instead of what others want us to be. General Webb pulled up a final display showing human exploration vessels heading toward distant galaxies. We're not looking backward, Captain. We're looking forward to places your Confederation has never dreamed of going. Captain Torres realized with growing horror what had happened. The Galactic Confederation hadn't excluded dangerous primitives. They had excluded the most capable species in the galaxy. And in doing so, they had created something far more powerful than they could handle. What should I tell the Council? She asked Dot. Dr. Chun walked her back toward the airlock. Tell them we said thank you. Thank you for forcing us to realize that we never needed their approval. Thank you for showing us that being different isn't a weakness. As Captain Torres reached the airlock, Admiral Kim called after her. Oh, and Captain, if the Confederation ever needs help with anything, don't hesitate to ask. We're always willing to help our neighbors. The words were friendly, But Captain Torres understood the message. The humans weren't angry about their exclusion. They weren't seeking revenge or conquest. They had simply outgrown the need for galactic society entirely. As her ship left human space, Captain Torres looked back at the massive Dyson swarm around Proxima Centauri. Somewhere in the distance, human ships were racing toward other galaxies, carrying millions of colonists to new homes among the stars. The galaxy had decided to exclude Earth because humanity was too chaotic, too violent, and too unpredictable. Humanity had taken that criticism and turned it into the greatest success story in galactic history, and they were just getting started.